And who is better in speech than one who invites to God and does righteousness? Holy Quran 41:33. Chapter 4. The Guide. Introduction. In accordance with the noble tradition of his father, Hadrat Sahib helped and guided anyone who came to him regardless of religion, caste or gender. During the Dogra rule, there were even Hindus and Sikhs in the Mirpur district who sometimes sought help and advice from Hadrat Sahib. The Sangis too turned to Hadrat Sahib for various matters, from guidance to health. The mission of holy people is to save souls, not condemn them. Illustrating this very point, Sheikh Sadi writes, "Human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain." Siva Ram. Undoubtedly, there are sincere, good-hearted people within every society, and when they meet holy people, they can instantly recognize them and often seek salvation through them. One such soul was Siva Ram. He was a wealthy Hindu merchant who had a warehouse in Kotli. One of his employees was a Sangi who was a night watchman and slept in the store overnight. When the travelling Sangis needed to stay the night in Kotli, he would accommodate them in his lounge, which was situated near the river. On one occasion, Hadrat Sahib and 5 Sangis spent a night in the lounge. There were only 2 beds, and so Hadrat Sahib instructed a local Sangi, Hayat Ali, to sleep on the bed. However, out of respect, he felt uncomfortable sleeping on the bed while senior Sangis slept on the floor, so he quietly requested Faujdar Khan to sleep on the bed. Faujdar Khan refused and stated that he did not have permission to do so. Despite Hadrat Sahib's instruction, Hayat Ali decided to sleep on the floor. During the night, Hayat Ali was stung by a scorpion and was in complete agony. The Sangis took turns to recite prayers before blowing upon him to cure him. However, his pain did not subside. Sangi Ashraf pleaded to Hadrat Sahib to blow upon him, to which Hadrat Sahib replied he was told to sleep on the bed. At that very moment, Hayat Ali fell unconscious. Hadrat Sahib gently stroked the area where he was stung, and when Hayat Ali regained consciousness, the pain was gone. When Hadrat Sahib visited Kotli, he mostly stayed in a mosque. Siva Ram knew Hadrat Sahib and treated him with great love and devotion. During Hadrat Sahib's visit, he brought beautiful bedding, utensils, and other useful items. One night, Siva Ram brought an elegant bedding set, an expensive pair of clothes, a lavish dinner set, a tray full of dried dates, and 500 coins of silver, and presented them to Hadrat Sahib before asking if he may embrace Islam. According to the Dogra law, if a Hindu or a Sikh embraced Islam, all his wealth and property will be confiscated. He will become an outcast, and no one from his tribe will want any dealings with him. Hadrat Sahib explained all the consequences to Siva Ram and advised him to keep his faith a secret until the tribal laws changed. Accordingly, Siva Ram embraced Islam but did not publicly declare it. As for all of Siva Ram's offerings, Hadrat Sahib returned them and stated, "We are travellers. We cannot carry those expensive beddings and dishes. We wear a coarse woolen garment, and that is enough. We do not need these expensive clothes." With regards to the silver coins, Hadrat Sahib commented, "God has made us independent of his creation. We are not in need of anything besides God." Hadrat Sahib then instructed him to distribute the dried dates to the people and take the remainder for his family and friends. From then on, Siva Ram would often come to the mosque at night and read the litany. Hadrat Sahib had granted him. Gift horse. Before the partition of India, which accompanied the creation of the 2 independent states, Pakistan and India, A local Hindu came to present a horse as a gift to Hadrat Sahib in Chechen Sharif. He explained that he had made a vow that when his mare gave birth he would give the colt or the filly to Hadrat Sahib. His mare gave birth to a colt, and he raised it until it was ready to ride. Hadrat Sahib declined the offer, but the Hindu insisted before Hadrat Sahib eventually agreed on the condition that he may pay for it. An expert horse dealer was consulted to set a price. He stated it was worth 30 rupees. Hadrat Sahib thanked the Hindu and paid him 50 rupees for the horse. Regardless of his religion being different to Hadrat Sahib, the Hindu recognized the nobility and saintliness of Hadrat Sahib. It was a common belief among the Hindus, Sikhs and Muslims that if one served a holy person, it would bring him success. Subhan Singh. Subhan Singh was a devout Sikh who lived next door to Sayyid Mandu. He would read the Sikh holy book every morning. Whenever Qibla Alam visited Sayyid Mandu, Subhan Singh would meet him and show a great deal of respect. His association with Qibla Alam had such an impact on his life that he was transformed. He gradually gave up worldly matters and became a wandering mystic. After the demise of Qibla Alam, he continued to follow the spiritual path, and on one occasion he met Hadrat Sahib. Hadrat Sahib was happy to see him again after a long time and embraced him. When Hadrat Sahib noticed that he was travelling on his own and not mingling with other travellers, he inquired, "Why are you walking on your own while your colleagues walk ahead?" He replied, "It is better to stay away from such a company. As the saying goes, tie two birds together, and though they have four wings, they cannot fly. A faithful companion is not one who accompanies you, but the one with whom you share your aspirations." Lost Son. Hadrat Sahib was once in the Kotli region when he passed through the paddy fields in the midday heat. Suddenly, a woman without her head covering emerged from the fields, running and screaming. The Sangis assumed she was mad, and so one Sangi stood in front of Hadrat Sahib's horse as she approached. Directing her anguish towards Hadrat Sahib, she exclaimed, "I will not let you pass until you bring back my lost son, who is a soldier." In the intense midday heat, Hadrat Sahib halted his horse and said, "Let us all pray for this lady's lost son." Hadrat Sahib made a prayer, and all the Sangis said, "Amen." By God's grace, the young man returned home within a week. Seeking the prayers of a holy person is a tradition that is traced back to our Prophet, as there is no doubt that their prayers contain the power even to change destinies. Lost Child. A 6-year-old boy took a few cows to graze near his home before he suddenly disappeared. His family and the locals searched for him tirelessly in the surrounding area, but without any success. The following day, the boy arrived home frightened and said, "I saw a woman dressed in green clothes, golden shoes, and she carried a wooden stick. She told me not to shout or call anyone, otherwise she would hit me with the stick." She stated that the western side of their house had much rubbish and it should be moved from there. She asked the boy, "Where is Hadrat Sahib these days?" The boy replied by saying he did not know. His uncle later went to Kotli and met Hadrat Sahib and related the whole incident to him. However, he did not comment on the matter. According to the local legends, such stories are always linked with the jinn. The jinn can change shapes and mostly remain hidden from the sight of humans. This story suggests that a family of jinn had settled near the house of the boy and his family threw rubbish where they lived, and this caused them grief. The woman in green was probably the mother who came to warn the family not to throw their rubbish on that area. From that above account, it appears that the jinn was a Muslim and knew Hadrat Sahib, hence the boy was unharmed. Loveless Marriage. During the mid-1940s, Hadrat Sahib went to visit Dr Khan. A hut had been built for his solitude, and Hadrat Sahib would spend his time in it to worship. A young woman, Gorth B, came with her mother to visit Hadrat Sahib. He was informed by the Sangis that she belonged to a noble farming family. From her account, it seemed that Gorth B was an intelligent person who was entrapped in a loveless marriage with Mian Nur, who was already previously married. She asked Hadrat Sahib for some litanies for her problems. Sometimes later, Fadala, the person whom Gorth B loved, kidnapped her and took her to his hideout in the mountains. Mian Nur went to court and filed a case against Fadala for kidnapping his wife. At the same time, he began to spread propaganda against Hadrat Sahib, saying that Gorth B had visited him on several occasions, and he had given her something to recite for her to obtain a divorce. Perhaps Mian Nur assumed that what she was reciting was, in fact, her casting a negative spell on their marriage. On one occasion, as Hadrat Sahib was sat inside the hut, he heard the shouting of Mian Nur, who accused him of helping his wife Gorth B to obtain a divorce. He also accused that the kidnapping was also part of this plan, and threatened to file a case against Hadrat Sahib. The following day, Mian Nur came and sought an audience with Hadrat Sahib. He said, "I have not come to visit you, but to complain that you have given something to my wife to obtain a divorce, but I will never divorce her." Hadrat Sahib calmly replied, "It is not our concern whether you divorce her or not. That is your affair. We are accessible to everyone, since our role is to guide people to God." After his audience with Hadrat Sahib, Mian Nur was convinced that he had no connection with the kidnapping incident. Hadrat Sahib asked Mian Nur to stay as his guest, but he declined the invitation. Mian Nur then went in search of his wife and was captured by Fadala's gang. Fadala forced Mian Nur to divorce Gorth B and then later married her. In that way, the whole episode ended. Henceforth, the new couple lived happily and had many children. Noble lineage. To show reverence to the descendants of holy people is much encouraged in Islam. For example, the incident mentioned in the Holy Quran of two poor orphans were helped by Al-Qadir, not mentioned by name in the Holy Quran, were in fact descendants of a pious man. Due to this link, Al-Qadir helped rebuild a wall which was concealing a treasure that belonged to the orphans. A Sangi once saw Hadrat Sahib showing reverence to a young man whose forefathers were pious people. The Sangi remarked, "There is nothing holy about this young man." Hadrat Sahib replied, "There is no doubt that his ancestors were spiritual, and we show reverence to him due to that link." It is thus not surprising that many Sangis continually revere the relatives and descendants of Hadrat Sahib, just as many Muslims show respect to the descendants of our Prophet. Teenage patient. A teenage boy named Zaman once came to Hadrat Sahib and stated that the doctors said his disease could not be cured. He informed Hadrat Sahib that his father was in America and that money was not an issue. So Zaman requested Hadrat Sahib to cure him. However, Hadrat Sahib replied, "I am neither a doctor nor a holy person." Hadrat Sahib suggested that he visited another saint whose followers included many doctors, and perhaps a cure could be found there. Discontented with this response, Zaman remarked, "I am not going back to the doctors or any other saint. Either I am cured here, or else my family shall collect my corpse." To please the teenager, Hadrat Sahib broke some bread into a plate of yogurt curry and gave it to Zaman, who gradually regained full health. Of the many striking characteristics of Hadrat Sahib, his humility in all situations contributed to his eminence as a guide. He denounced the fame that often comes with being a spiritual guide, and in his denouncing was able to not only guide many to God, but also bring relief and much needed cure to the masses. Rabid. Hadrat Sahib was travelling through the Kotli region with Faujdar Khan, who informed him that a dog with rabies had bitten a local man. Consequently, the infected man became mad and began attacking people, so his family chained him up to prevent him from causing further harm. Hadrat Sahib went to the infected person and told his family to unchain them. The ill man fell at the feet of Hadrat Sahib and kissed them. Hadrat Sahib gently stroked his head and he was cured. His cure was such that he was later well enough to migrate abroad. Some people might view this as a miracle, but in reality this is one of the various duties that people like Hadrat Sahib performed. As the role of a holy person is not just to cure the illnesses of the spiritual heart, he also restores a physical body to full health. Lost in God. Hadrat Sahib once came across an intoxicated mystic who lived in a cemetery near the mosque. During the day, the mystic would collect grass and twigs, and at night, when people had left the mosque, he would spend the entire night in remembrance of God. It is said that, wherever he sat, a sweet fragrance emanated from that place. On one occasion, Hadrat Sahib stayed in this very mosque, and he had a beautiful shawl with him, which he sent as a gift to the intoxicated mystic via a Sangis. It was the mystic's practice that if anyone offered him any clothes, he would beat the clothes with a stone until they became rags. However, when the Sangis presented Hadrat Sahib's shawl to him, he surprisingly said, "Leave it there." The Sangis did as he was instructed and asked him to pray for Hadrat Sahib, to which he replied, "I shall." When the mystic left the mosque, he took the shawl with him. Soon after this incident, Hadrat Sahib's temperament began to change from serenity to anguish. These are spiritual states that befall certain men of God. Another encounter Hadrat Sahib had with another intoxicated mystic was when he travelled to the Dajjal area with two Sangis. Situated between Gula Sharif and Mirpur, Dajjal is a city within Kashmir, located 55 kilometres to the southwest of Kotli. As it was time for the afternoon prayer, the Sangis searched for water with which to perform ablution. They found some clay pitchers under the shade of a tree, and nearby was a raised platform where they prayed in congregation. After the prayer, they met an intoxicated old mystic, Sayin Ido. He had a rosary made of metal wire which he would throw up in the air. Hadrat Sahib asked him, "Sayin Sahib, do you know who I am and where I live?" He replied, "How do I know that you live in such and such a place?" In that rhetorical question to Hadrat Sahib, Sayin Ido had mentioned the exact 3 locations where Hadrat Sahib resided in those days, subtly indicating that he indeed knew where Hadrat Sahib lived. Hadrat Sahib then inquired, "Have you been to Medina Sharif?" He replied, "I cannot tell you, as the Master shall punish me." Naked Darwish. Hadrat Sahib once visited a naked Darwish who lived in the Dajjal area. He had a stroke during his childhood that affected one half of his body. The naked Darwish stood outside his house shouting mysterious utterances. Hadrat Sahib went inside and inquired from his mother how long he had been naked. She replied, "From birth he never wore any clothes." The naked Darwish came inside the house and his mother said, "Son, this is Pir Sahib." The naked Darwish commented, "This Pir is very strict." Hadrat Sahib requested a sheet from the old lady and instructed a Sangi to tie it around the waist of the naked Darwish. Shortly after, Hadrat Sahib left. Later that evening, the naked Darwish asked his mother to remove the sheet before he retired to bed. When he awoke, he said to his mother, "Please put it, the lower garment, back on, as Pir Sahib will hit me." And he meant Hadrat Sahib. After this incident, he never roamed around naked again. The three mystics mentioned above were all trying to subdue their ego in one form or another. Some had even taken extreme actions, such as the naked dervish. It is evident that these mystics had no desire for the world, because they understood that love for the world is the root of all evil actions. Hadrat Sahib met these mystics to learn and correct some of their methods, not their mission. After all, Hadrat Sahib's mission was multifactorial. Whilst guiding people to God was his chief task, he was also a healer and spiritual master. Ultimately, in order to gain closeness to God, one must first be free from the dangerous hindrances of the ego.